just wanted to summarise this sort of family of products that we're developing called Century Printing, of which obviously Scodix is a big element, but I will go over some of the other ones which you will find in our first book as well. So really, these are the products which we're classifying within this range, which is transparent ink, raised ink, white ink, metallic effects, and embossed varnish. Transparent ink is something which is laid down on the indigo presses. Again, apologies if you've seen this before. Samples of this are in our first book that we're handing out. This is still a good product because what it does, it's not a spot UV and it's not a varnish, but it is a genuine clear ink that runs on the presses. And what it can do is give you quite subtle effects, especially onto a range of uncoated stocks. And it's very good use for line art and patterns and that kind of thing. Again, this is just a bit of technical information on how to set it up. Effectively, a spot colour called transparent. The important element of that is to set it to overprint in the artwork. This is an example which is done using a grey uncoated stock and a combination with white ink on the press. So what you can see, although it's not a spot varnish effect, it gives you a very nice and subtle tonal difference between the actual uncoated feel of the paper and the slightly more saturated look where the ink has been laid down. Raised ink, which again is in the first book, and this is really an evolution on from clear ink, but this is where we put down multiple layers of clear ink to build up the height a little bit. I suppose in many ways it was the demand for this product which drove us to invest in the Scodix, because this is quite limited in terms of coverage you can achieve, i.e. you couldn't take a photo and lay a load of raised ink down over it and get a nice glossy effect because it scratches and scuffs and the print becomes a little bit brittle. But what it's very good for, because it's laid down as part of the printing process, the registration is absolutely spot on. So what it's very good for, if you look in your first books when you get a chance on this kind of work, what we've done is there's an outline of the flower detail and petal details is done using raised ink, so it gives you a really nice sort of tactile feel to the finished product. Again, just this is really just showing, this again is in our first book, and this really just gives you an indication of what you can do, ranges of textures, not too much solid coverage. An important thing which Rob briefed me to say on this one is that raised ink is set up as a channel. So again, we can offer more technical help on that side if needs be. This is, unfortunately I don't have this sample with me today, but this is where effectively the pattern across the book is done on press using the raised ink. So obviously there's a foil on it as well, but this is purely created using the raised ink. Now, I suppose the advantage of this over the Scodix, which I'll talk about later, is this works very, very well on a full range of uncoated stocks. We're still experimenting a little bit with the Scodix in terms of what uncoated stocks work and what processes we need to put down underneath it to make it work on uncoated stocks. But this will work beautifully on a wide range of uncoated stocks, obviously including the Fedrigoni range. White ink, which again we've had a while now, but again we're still seeing people being introduced to it for the first time. But obviously what that allows us to do on our indigo presses is to work with far more interesting range of paper stocks. It can obviously be used on its own onto, well, the range is huge. There's a large amount of papers that are already pre-coated for the indigos, which we do keep it on the shelf, but we can also get coated a wide range of other materials as well. So it can be either used just as a white ink or a white underlay for CMYK. So what it will do is when you're using coloured materials, it will give you a far more vibrant CMYK on top. We have actually used digital spot colours on top of white, on top of coloured stocks as well. So in theory, you can get quite an accurate colour match using a dark paper stock, which in the past has been almost impossible, even using litho processes. Seen a trend for this, very sort of organic, touchy-feely paper stocks. This is an eco-craft material, which is like a, like a packaging material, wrapping paper, that style of thing. Again, this job without using white ink behind the red, there is actually a sample in our first book as well, just completely gets lost in the paper and you get very dull colour. But by putting the white down underneath, which can be up to about 6 layers of white, you get a far more vibrant image. Again, just another example, again, using the black paper stock. This is using white ink and clear ink in combination. And again, most of this is very short run. We do a lot of very short run pitch work where clearly this kind of cover, which is a paper over board cover, A3, would have been wire bound. You know, this we would produce overnight or in 24 hours. You know, clearly, even if you had the budget to go out and get a spot UV varnish laid down onto that cover, you know, the timings just would not allow it. The other thing we're always happy to do is to work with you guys in terms of, you know, we can proof, you know, we can provide samples. And again, when you're working with sort of traditional finishing processes, you know, still comes up, okay, can you proof me a foil? Can you proof me a spot UV? Really, within the sort of parameters of the size of jobs that we tend to run, running one copy is almost as expensive as running the finished job. So we always very much feel that when we're using traditional processes, that our hands are very much tied. So ultimately, I suppose what that really allows us to do is to be more creative and adventurous in terms of what we take on. You know, we're quite happily say, well, we give it a go, we don't know. You know, and there's time for a plan B if it doesn't work, whereas, you know, you use traditional print finishes, your pearlescent foil comes back from the finisher and it looks awful and there's no recovery time. You know, we're quite happy to be quite adventurous and fire across the swatches, samples of artwork, and we'll run them out and fine tune the mechanics of getting it working how you guys want it to work. Again, this was just part of the same document, but really what this is showing is that by using, this is, again, apologies, it's not very clear, but we use a wide range of Miri boards. So what these are, papers and cards that are coated in a metallic laminate. And what it does is using white and CMYK, it allows us to emulate most metallic colours, and again, can give you stunning results on a very short run. It all gets a bit confusing because there's a crossover from here, from indigo onto the Scodix process, and we're always at hand to say, well, this is the best path to go for this, etc., etc. We've now actually started coating our own material. We're coating the paper and boards in-house now with the metallic laminate, so we actually can be far more flexible, because up to now we've been limited by what the suppliers will actually supply, but now we can make double-sided metallic paper, we can make it onto an uncoated stock if your text is uncoated, etc., etc. This is software that a software supplier that we work with, and what this is really, it's the equivalent of a Pantone swatch, but what it's telling you is effectively to achieve these metallic, again, apologies, it doesn't look metallic on here, but if you look in your first books, these are all different metallic colours. So what we're saying is we have a specific CMYK reference for all these metallic colours. So if you specify one of these in your artwork as a spot colour, we will then print, and that's the result you will get back. So that's using a combination of white and CMYK and a metallic stock. We're in the process of developing one for the Scodix process as well, which will have different values. This is actually a holographic Miri board, so this has like a sort of shimmering effect in the background. And again, this was only a run of about, I think it was 50, 60 invites, something like that. And using CMYK, white, and the Miri board, we got a really quite stunning invitation produced. Now I'm getting onto the Scodix products, so this is really where we start the crossover of what you've heard so far today. So the first of these Scodix products is what we call embossed varnish. So this is the high build, very clear effect that you've heard about earlier. Again, not sure if this sample is available yet. I took my chances and didn't know which one was out there. But this one, which we're working on at the moment, is all very matte, and then all the bubbles are just this very clear ink, and it does actually look very, very effective. So it's just sort of, you know, coming up with creativity on those kind of ideas. And the other product on the Scodix, which is superb, is, if I say so myself, is the metallic effect. So this is basically an underlay of a special laminate film that we then print on top of, and then we apply the Scodix varnish on top, and it gives you a genuine silver effect or metallic effect. This was a job, again, really, the client pretty much left it up to us what we did with it. And this was for, they're just some certificates they were handing out. So this was one off each, basically. Lots of different colours. So what we've got is CMYK on top of the metallic effect, just to give a sort of metallic colour. And then obviously here we put the varnish on top. And again, really, there's no other process that you could do to produce one of these in a cost-effective way. So the total value of this job for 10 different artworks with 10 different silver effects was under £200 and turned around the same day. So again, in terms of producing pieces that can differentiate your work, you know, it's a stunning effect, really. And again, apologies, little bit damaged.